So I've changed, like, it's about environment, it's about trauma. So this is the title. I've modified the title here. I believe you people must have seen the film Tenet. Are you familiar with the film? Have you watched it? How many of you? How many of you have seen? Can you just raise your hand? Okay, not many. Okay, so uh, how many of you are familiar with Christopher Nolan? I mean, you are. So in this lecture, we are going to see three things. The first is we'll see about the filmography of Christopher Nolan and how all of them plays together regarding trauma. We'll look into terms like future narratives and quantum cinema. And the third is, how like certain events, uh, they like we imagine them to be creating a certain future. Okay, so we'll go through these three things, throughout this lecture. So first is again about Christopher Nolan. Um, if you people must have followed his filmography, his career, you must have seen there are three things that are like often associated with him. So the first is his preference of working on film instead of digital. If you know the difference between them, film is like the analog medium, digital is like digital. It captures the light and it does all the computer stuff. Next one is the his preference over theatrical experience rather than just watching sitting in home, watching on Netflix or whatever medium you use. So instead of doing that, he wants people to go out and he wants people to experience the theater. And the third one is the narrative complexity. And what is this narrative complexity? um, if you have like seen his films, even the simplest ones, they don't follow the linear timeline. So how do these films explore trauma one after another? So if you have seen his short film, if you haven't, you just go on YouTube, search Doodlebug, and you'll find it's a 3 minutes long film, a short film, and it seeds it it presents the very idea of Christopher Nolan coming to the fore. How Christopher Nolan became Christopher Nolan. So in this particular film, you see there's a guy and he finds himself being surrounded with forces that he cannot control. The same thing that continues in the first feature film, his next film, which is like the first full feature length film, which is Following, where he again presents a protagonist who is not able to control things that are happening with him. But the main point of this film is that he brings the audience in his fold, in the fold of narrative puzzle. You get confused with the protagonist. You follow the storyline and you get confused as what is happening, and somehow you start empathizing with, and you find yourself in the shoes of the protagonist. You become that character. The next one is again, is like one of the most iconic films, which is used by trauma theorists, which is Memento. If you're familiar with, Indian version is Gajini, you must have seen, but Gajini is nowhere what Memento is. So it shows like how there's again a person who is basically split between what his body feels and what his psyche feels. Psyche cannot comprehend. It lives in the past, but body is something which is in the present. So how he's bringing both of them in the kind of like the narration that he's creating for himself, the story that he's building for himself. Then there is Insomnia. I don't know, it's one of the most underrated films of Christopher Nolan. And if you watch this film, you'll find that the germs of Dark Knight and Batman Begins, they are here. So he presents like two characters. One is like Al Pacino is again playing a very cliched, generic cop that he has played in many of the previous films, Serpico, for example. And then there is Robin Williams. And Robin Williams is like one of the most beloved actors and characters in, say, all of Hollywood. I don't think that anybody's there, any person who would come out and say that they don't like Robin Williams. Everybody likes Robin Williams. But he's here somewhere, as a sinister character who hovers around somebody who is out there hiding in the corners and to do something wrong with you. And when Pacino's character, when he finds out that okay, he like there's this kind of a person is there, there goes this tussle between them, between the right and wrong, and Pacino again finds himself in the shoes of Robin Williams' character, and he's basically just the opposite of what we see in Inception, in the form of Cobb, played by DiCaprio. He's anti-Cobb, and he's anti in the sense that he cannot sleep. In Inception, we never know whether the person is sleeping or he's awake, but in this particular film, he cannot sleep. So what happens with him? It creates a kind of a epistemological void for him. He struggles with the knowledge that he's gaining. He starts hallucinating things, and he doesn't know if whatever he's experiencing is right or wrong. The choices that he's making is right or wrong. Again, another film of Nolan, which is The Prestige. There isn't an external manifestation of trauma in the film, but you see both the characters, like there's a tussle going on between, I'm forgetting the name of the characters that the actors play, Robert Redford and something else, played by Christian Bale and who's the other actor? Hugh Jackman. Okay. So these two actors, they go toe to toe with each other. Both of them are magicians. But you see the internal frustration of both the characters and the psychological trauma that they are facing. Next is, again, Inception. I mean, should I say something more about this film? I mean, this is like one of the most iconic films. Still, people are troubled by the knowledge, what actually happened in the end. And it is traumatic for the audience as well, But what he did with this particular character, who is actually, loved by all, revered in that sense, which is Bruce Wayne. I'm not saying Batman, I'm saying Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, again, he's a character who finds that, okay, something very bad happened with him during his childhood, and he wants to take the revenge, but then somehow his path turns, and from taking revenge, he moves towards avenging the wrong that happened with his mom and dad. And if you if you just follow Batman's chronology, not only in just this film, but overall, you see that during 60s, in the very pop, iconic, very humorous, comical character that Batman became, he dresses himself like a child. He cannot leave his childhood. So somewhere he's stuck in that zone where he wishes to find out, where he wishes to leave, lead a normal life, leave a legacy for himself that he can be proud of. But, he doesn't know what to do because he lost, again, the name of the father. He lost that, and he doesn't know the idea how to correct things that are happening around him. So you see that struggle, and Nolan basically took that vibe. He removed everything that was comical about him, and he presented him as a character who is, again, more like Hamlet in that sense. Then again, one of my most go-to films is Interstellar. Everybody loves Interstellar. If people hate it, I mean, I can understand, but this film is, again, more of a Kubrick's version, like the answer to Kubrick, as what else could have happened if Kubrick were to have today's technology, what kind of movie he might have made. Um, but Interstellar is very different from what we are going to talk about from the film Tenet. Everything happens in this film in the future. Okay. And there's a thing with Nolan that he presents a story and there's an arc which exists outside that story. So you see in the film, there's a climate catastrophe is going on. Within that catastrophe, you know, there is no way that humans can survive on this planet. Again comes the existential question. Again comes the Kubrick's question: are we meant to die here, or much like Nietzschean superhero, super human being, uh, Nietzschean Superman? Should we escape this planet? So these questions are dealt in Interstellar, where Nolan basically believes that yes, we are meant for far more things. You know, in Elon Musk's kind of idea that we are meant to leave this planet. Then there is Dunkirk. How many of you have seen Dunkirk? Again, it's a very, I would say, less popular, but one of the most exciting Nolan's films. Watch that. Watch these films. It's very different from any of the war films that you might have seen. Usually, what happens in the war films, you find gore, you find violence, you find a lot of bloodshed, but that is all those things are missing here. This film is a clean mess. It's a clean mess. So it shows you how unnatural war is. And again, the focus is on the psychological implication of war on the soldiers and also on people who are far off, somewhere hearing about, somewhere, witnessing something which they cannot control. So one of the critics, he writes on Nolan, Stuart Joy, that you can read the quote here, that trauma haunts the cinema of Christopher Nolan. His films strive to articulate and understand the complexities of trauma. His recurring interest in aligning us with the character who have been traumatized and his repeated return to stories that involve loss thematically anchors each of his films in the experience of trauma. But beyond this, trauma is also explored through our own relationship to his films, which frequently feature complex timelines that demand and even reward multiple viewings. These intricate narrative puzzles encourages us to return to them in such a way that emulates the cognitive shifts of traumatic memory. Just as though those who have undergone a traumatic experience must remember the past in the hope of moving forward, we too must recall our experience if we are to understand what we have seen. Now, I read somewhere, it was not about Nolan. I read, I was reading one of Roger Ebert's film review, and he said that a film reviewer is much like, a person who just goes out, like he relies so much on their memory. The person, like if you become a critic, a reviewer, you need to rely so much on your memory as what you have experienced, maybe inside a theater, or if you're reading something. So you juggle with your with your notes. You make some notes, you edit it, you leave some certain things out, you revisit it. So what a reviewer does, what a critic does, is something that Nolan makes all of us do, even like the simpleton audience who have nothing to do with reviewing the film. But once they are there inside the theater and the way the narrative puzzles start to unfold, everybody is getting traumatized, I would say. Everybody is traumatized. And Tenet is a wonderful example of such a film. Why so? Because it came during if you remember, during the COVID period. Okay, so it got postponed for some time. It got released when I believe when the first wave was still going on, it was diminishing. So it got released during that time. And if you've seen the film, if you've watched the film begins with this particular logo of Warner Brothers. Unlike any other, like there are darker tones to Warner Brothers. Like if you see Harry Potter's last films of the series, or maybe Batman's films, Zack Snyder's films, you'll see darker tone there. But this one started with this bloodish, reddish logo. Why so? Maybe they were trying to, you know, bring audience, to the fold as to what is happening outside is also happening inside. Much like what Ben Jonson used to do. If you've read The Alchemist, you know, what is happening in the theater, on the stage, is also happening outside. The plague is here, the plague is out there. So similarly, Nolan also did the same thing. The film started, the logo is there, and once you realize, like you see a certain symbolic manifestation, this red logo, it shows you that whatever you are going to watch in that film is going to make you uncomfortable, much the same as you are feeling in the outside world. Now the thing is, again, unlike Interstellar, which presents a dystopian future, Tenet is set in the present, where the future is trying to communicate with the present because it is facing an environmental catastrophe. What does it mean? It presents the future in the present. Unlike Interstellar, unlike any of the futuristic films, which are set somewhere in the future, this film is set in the present. It is happening now. So how can a film that is set, that is located in the present, talk about future? So if you watch the film, these are the 5 main characters. Okay. So first one is played by John David Washington. He's like the new evolving face. He plays the character, the protagonist. There is no name. There is no Rahul, Raj, Simran. There is nothing like that. He's just the protagonist. Another one is played by Robert Pattinson, who is Neil. Somewhere if you watch the film, he emulates Nolan himself. Nolan is present in all of his films in one way or the other. Okay. The villain is played by Kenneth Branagh, which is, he plays a character, Andre Setter. Another one is Kate, who plays the wife of Andre Setter. This character is played by Elizabeth Debicki. And the last one is Priya, which has been played by Dimple Kapadia. Now, what's the story? This particular protagonist dies at the very beginning. So if a character is dead, how is he alive in the rest of the film? Now what happens, there's a group called Tenet, which works from the future. So they were somehow looking into, how much confidence they can, put upon this particular character. What if they include the character and he, cheats them? So he dies. He's tortured at very early. The film opens with a opera siege that happens at Kiev, and he's there on the rescue. He's there to locate something. He cannot find it. He's captured by other people. They torture him. But then he is restored. His body is restored. He wakes up in the hospital and he finds out that there is this particular group who want him to work for that particular group. Okay. Now, what's the job? The job is to save the present from the future, because the future is communicating with the past. Because what Amy was also saying in the morning, that in US, what is happening with most of the youngsters, and I don't believe that it's only happening in US, it's happening everywhere, where the younger generation, they're feeling somewhere cheated by the past generation, by the actions of the past generation. We are in so much debt. We are facing, the climate issue, environmental issues that are surrounding us, the wrong choices that our forefathers made. So we are paying the prices. So again, the question comes, are we paying the price, or are we leading a better life? That could be debated. But younger generation somewhere, like, they don't feel comfortable enough with the decisions that they saw or they see that the older generation is making for them. So the future is angry with the past, and they want to change the past to save the future. So what they do, they send things in the past where they change the entropy. If you understand entropy, uh, and like, we breathe, like we are born, we breathe, we grow old, because or the our body molecules, bodily molecules, bodily hormones, everything around us, it ages. Okay, it has a certain movement, linearity in time, you know. But once the entropy is reversed, it changes, it goes against the rule of physics. Uh, Instead of growing old, you will be growing younger. Instead, like, cause or effect. Okay, so instead of, like, something happens, so the effect comes. But instead of happening that, effect will come, and then come the cause. So there are certain substances found where, it reveals that, okay, the future is communicating with the past, so he needs to protect it. He needs to look into as to what the future is designing for them. So in searching all these things, he goes to Mumbai. He meets Priya, where he finds that, okay, there are bullets which, when fired, they don't actually fire. The bullets are there, they get back into the pistol. So if there is such kind of technology that exists, it could be catastrophic. People, if they don't know about it, it could turn out to be something very messy. If a bullet can do that, so an atom bomb can also do the same. So how is this happening? So Priya tells him about a person called Andre Setter. So if you get into the film, it goes very Chernobyl kind of thing, like what happened during, yeah, in Ukraine, the thing, you get the vibe of Russia and Ukraine conflict. You get that in the film. So Andre Setter, he had a very bad childhood, but once working for other people, he found out that he found certain substances at a nuclear site where the entropy was reversed. So he again puts everything together, and he finds out that there's a thing called algorithm. There's a substance called algorithm. I know it's confusing. If you haven't watched the film, all of these things are very confusing. But I'm actually putting all these things to make things easier for you, so that if you watch the film, it would make sense to you. Nothing like, I'm putting things in a very linear way as to how things happened in the film. Or if you'll watch it, you will get confused. Nothing is happening as I'm telling. Something happens before, the effect is coming before the cause. Cause is revealed much later in the film. So with this algorithm, this, like, Setter believes that if this algorithm can be brought together, there are 9 pieces of algorithm, if they can be brought together and you just bomb it, it will create such kind of fusion or fission, whatever, that it will reverse the entropy of the whole planet. So the planet will be restored. The future will be saved. The planet, instead of decaying, it will start going into the past, and things will turn out to be better. That's what future believes. Okay, or maybe they wish to, they're here in the film, the questions are laid out. How can such thing happen? So there are issues regarding grandfather paradox. If you have heard about grandfather paradox, that what if I go in the past and I kill my grandfather, would I still be here alive? So such kind of questions are put in the film, but it's just that the future is so furious with the past that they don't care about. They believe that this should happen. The future has become so unlivable that there is no other way to save the planet. So how does, like, Andre Setter, he gets the information about the future. So instead of going in the future, what he does, he gets the information in the present. He lives the present, and then if like all the knowledge that he gathers from the present, he uses another machine called turnstile. And with the turnstile, he then reverses his entropy. Once his entropy is reversed, instead of going in the future or being in the present, his present starts to move towards the past. So he gets back to a certain point of time where the past he has already lived, he has the information, and from there he changes things because the present which he has lived has become future. Again, a little bit confusing, or maybe it has made some sense to you. So the film in itself is a temporal pincer. If you watch the film, it's again like how is it a temporal pincer? Much like all of the Nolan films, the end is the beginning is the end. The film begins with key operation and it ends somewhere at stealth key 12, maybe it might be somewhere in Ukraine or Russia or somewhere, some place like that. So both of them are happening simultaneously. The end is happening when the beginning is going on. Okay. Now, what the film does, it follows this plot of predestination. Like when you read a novel, you know that the way things are going to happen will happen. The novelist has already decided something for you. So in the film also, the same kind of thing is happening. You are following a path where things have already been decided, maybe by Nolan. Nolan is that force outside the film, or maybe there is something else that controls that we cannot change. So the film goes through that, through the temporal prolapses, or what we can call plot of predestination. The film plays out the sequences in the present before the characters move into the past with the knowledge of the present, which is not the future, and act accordingly owing to that knowledge of the future in the past. So the present that they are living, they go back in the past, the present now has become the future. Okay, but it's still like, again, there's so much of confusion. You need to break the notion of the linearity of time. If you are going to understand this film in terms of how to put it much like a puzzle, you'll get confused. Okay. What Nolan basically says, you need to feel the film rather than just putting too much of your cognitive abilities. You just need to feel the film. Again, the audience must suspend their understanding of time in linear terms. That's what I'm saying here. Observing events for the first time and then returning to them again creates iterative prolapses. What is iterative prolapses? Say you people came here, you attended the first day after the inaugural, you went through the first lecture, then the second lecture, and then the third lecture. You expected same thing will follow today, so many of you came late today. So many of you joined the lecture at 11. Okay, because you became habituated that, okay, this is what is going to happen. Next day, like tomorrow, some people, because I've said, maybe you would be a little early. But now, what has happened with you? Although it is only for 5 days, but think in terms of when you join some semester somewhere. Okay, you start with your classes. So you get into the habit of things. So you repeat things. The first day is the only day where you'll, live your things around yourself, much like you are experiencing it for the first time. And every other day becomes a habit for you. So even though you are living it for the first time, you are not actually living it for the first time, if it is making sense to you. Okay. So Deleuze, he says, it is the present that we make a memory in order to make use of it in the future when the present will be past. So the second day, the third day, the fourth day, you use the memory of the first day, and you use that in terms of, like in the form of that habit, in the form, the knowledge that you have gained on the first day, you use it further. So Mark Curry, he talks about performative prolapses. What is it? An imagined future which produces the present, and a present which thus produces the future. Say, you have to decide, say, like if you are studying something, so you have to decide whether you wish to pass the semester with good grades. So if you are serious about it, maybe if you fear that you might fail, you will start studying. If you won't, you won't do anything. So you have to imagine something that if I don't do this, this will happen. So the anticipation of a certain kind of future makes up the present. Okay, once that present is made, your future starts to change in that sense. Are you getting my point? If there is any question, you can ask me. Am I making sense? Are you getting the point? Okay. As such, it is the most common relation of the present to the future, the one which pertains in repetition. And that's what you even see in Tenet. So many times you'll see the same action repeating again and again and again. Have you seen Groundhog's Day? Are you familiar with Groundhog's Day, Bill Murray's film? Or have you seen this, the new one that came, Rajkumar Rao's film, the recent one, where he's stuck in like in a same day. He's just going through the same day again and again. Have you seen that film or know about that film? Okay, so what like if you watch these films, what are these films about? Have you seen Vampire Diaries? Anybody here? Vampire Diaries? Are you a fan of Vampire Diaries here? There's an episode where I believe Damon is stuck, in somewhere in limbo where he's just repeating the same day again and again. What do these kind of narrations tell about? Any clue? How are you like even if like you are familiar with Rajkumar Rao's film, or if you have seen any such kind of film, what do these films talk about? They are about beta. Can we have mic? Just because the answer should also go to the live audience.
Okay, so basically these movies are about like they are in a loop. They do the same actions, they are in a loop. And sometimes the loop breaks when they do something new. But then they also kind of get stuck in that new things because then it's still not changing. They have to figure out how they can get out of this loop. And that's what basically the movie of Rajkumar Rao's movie
yeah.
and the episode where Damon was stuck, he had to figure out how he can get out of that loop.
Very true. Much like when you are stuck in a semester doing a course, you wish to get out of that course. You repeat the same thing again and again for 2 years or say for 3 years, and then you wish, when will it end? Isn't it? Yes or no? So Tenet emphasizes on future narratives rather than merely futuristic memories. So such kind of narrations, as she also truly mentioned, that you try to go through, repeat the same things again, and somewhere you are in a loop, you don't know the answer, and you put things in a different way. Maybe this will work now, or maybe that will work now. Now this is what we call future narrative. Future narrative works in node, N-O-D-E. It works in nodes. Nodes which bifurcates into something else. Once it bifurcates into something else, if you don't like that path, you can bifurcate it again. And it will go on and on and on, much like the term that we use these days, multiverse. You know the term multiverse? Marvel has made this thing famous. If you are into reading comics, you might have been familiar with this term way back. So what is this multiverse? Multiverse is all about living the same thing again and again unless you find a solution to the problem that you're facing. So instead of focusing on the future memory, like there nowhere in the film future is shown. You're always in the present in this film. What you are depicted with is future narrative, and as it is written here, future narratives are multilinear with at least one nodal situation. The example that Dr. Shipra gave yesterday, like one of the examples she used was of Run Lola Run in the inaugural. So Run Lola Run, if you're familiar with this film, what happens in the film? Like there's a girl, the film goes for, like the story goes for 20 minutes. but the same story is repeated again and again 3 times. So there's the girl, something happens with her, she wants to find some another path, another kind of solution. She goes with that, she doesn't like it, and then she goes to another path. So such kind of films are about trauma. When a person is in trauma, the person, like you go through in your head, if you suffer through any trauma, like even a bodily injury, if something happens with you, you are going and you didn't see a banana peel and and somehow like you put your leg and now you have fractured. So you repeat in your head, what if, like, I was looking around, I was getting a bit more careful. What if I was not on my phone? What if I would have taken another path? What if I was just 1 minute late? So you played those scenarios in your head. So same thing happens with Rajkumar Rao in his new film. Same thing happens. Sorry? Bhul Chuk Maaf. Okay, thank you. So Bhul Chuk Maaf is the name, right? Okay, so that happens in that film. Groundhog Day, Bill Murray's, he is also stuck in the similar loop. Damon is stuck in that loop. So they keep on finding the solution. Maybe they are imagining. Maybe everything is going in their head. So once they find the real solution to the problem, like in the film, the Rajkumar Rao's one, he actually cheated his way to a job. So that is lingering on him. Like it is getting very heavy on his conscience, as how can I take someone else's job? So he goes out through that loop of how can I correct this thing? So he doesn't want to give up, he wants to justify his action, but then somewhere like he realizes that no, there is no justification to what he did. Once he does that, he's out of that loop. Same thing happens like in other ones, like in Damon. Damon also did something like he was already very horrible character, a good-looking guy, but a horrible character. But he keeps on repeating the same thing again and again. But when he does the right thing, he's out of that loop. So such films are about those things. So this question is for you. Already I've given many examples, but can you think of a novel? Forget about film. Can you think of a novel? Have you read any such novel where you find characters repeating the same thing again and again? Kafka. Kafka is there, yes. And anybody else? Anybody contemporary, maybe? Huh? Sorry, Mike, can you? And also maybe a little bit of premise.
I think we can put the movie of Fight Club under the trauma movie. Fight Club that talking about double personality and repeat things more than one times. The actor of this movie of Fight Club, Brad Pitt. So he talking about double personality, and he talking about the trauma, the present and the future. So the event repeat more than once time.
Yeah, I mean, if you wish to put Fight Club in that sense, although there's split personality is there, but the person is also like living the same story again and again. He wishes to prove himself. It's not a futuristic narrative per se, but I get your point. I mean, it does the job. The character lives the same thing, again and again. Any novel, maybe any novel that you people might have read? So this is your, you can say, homework. You need to Google, you need to find out something like this. Maybe I'll ask a question tomorrow for the assessment. You can maybe prepare something like this. So what is quantum cinema then? So we'll see. Now this film comes as a reconciliation of an artist who acknowledges the decay of the art he so dearly loves and attempts to come to terms with it. Now Nolan, as I initially mentioned, there's an affection in him that goes for the medium of film, and somewhere he wishes to preserve it. He also came to India many years back, I believe in 2013, where in Mumbai he restored a Kodak camera, like in a theater. He restored a Kodak camera so that people can watch film in a codec projector. So he did that in 2013, and even before that, there are artists like Scorsese, there are Tarantino, Nolan, and even so many others who wish to preserve the medium of film, which is slowly dying. And Nolan is also coming in terms like so far he tried so hard, you know, he is working on IMAX. He's asking others, like there are directors like Denis Villeneuve. Um, the recent one that came, Sinners. I'm forgetting the name of the director, George Peele or something. I'm forgetting the name. Okay, so he's working with other directors as well, so that the medium of film could be preserved. But there is also an acknowledgement that it will die. Not now, but eventually it will die. So this algorithm is what? If you watch the film, in the end, when all the parts are assembled together, it looks like a movie camera. Okay, it looks like a movie camera. And that's what happens when you watch a film. Have you seen a film on VCR? Anybody here? Like all the youngsters who are sitting here, have you ever experienced a film being watched on VCR? Parents' wedding video, yeah, right? So when you reverse it, what happens? You see everything getting backwards. It looks comical, isn't it? It looks comical. But that's what happens even in the film. When protagonist goes for the first time through temporal pincer and he experiences the surroundings, the entropy is it's changed. Everything is moving backwards, as if slowly a VCR is being, or a projector, like a film in projector is running backwards. Everything is running backwards. So the algorithm contains 9 layers that are inferred to be indicative of color negative films, 9 layers. So I've written down all those 9 layers here. Now this uncanniness that cinema produces can be called earth. Now if you see this earth, it is with double A. This term is given by, it has been given by Bill McGibbon. Okay, if you just Google it, you'll find who has given this term. Bill McGibbon, he used this term for the first time. Now what is this earth? He says, Bill McGibbon says that although we are living in this planet, we see things that all of it looks so familiar, but it is not the same planet that was given to us. We have changed it. It is not Earth, but instead he calls it Earth. Now in the film, if you see, there's another film theorist called Jennifer Fay who also used this term in her book, where she talks about like so many, like Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and she basically talks about how the older cinema and the movement towards the new cinema, it changed our perspective towards the anthropogenic ideas. You know, like once we started witnessing films, it changed the way we experience things around us. Or we are even now, the way, like with this digital technology and all, the way we watch Netflix, the way we watch, YouTube, somewhere our attention span is getting negatively affected. Now we are into reels. We cannot even sit for a full-fledged film, like 1.5 hour film. No, I need to be entertained in just 1 minute. Okay, so it is affecting us. So in the film, same thing happens. When the protagonist enters in, or you can say when he starts his journey towards the past, what he witnesses is the same thing, the same planet, but that thing is in reverse. When you turn the VCR, you see it's the same thing, but it is in reverse. Okay, so it's the same thing, just the opposite. Okay, as if like the entropy has been reversed. So this is a quote by Peter Weibel. He is the first one, I would say, who comes with the term quantum cinema. And what is this quantum cinema? There is something between man and machine, namely technology. Maybe the world is only an interface. This is expanded cinema and VR technology. The important point is that the border, the interface is permeable and variable. The border can be extended. Something that is not the environment can be part of the system in the next step. Something that is the system can be the environment for the subsystem. This means that if I'm external observer of one system, I can become part of the system for the next environment, an internal observer for another external observer. Now, what this particular quote, if you feel that it is getting a little confusing, what he is trying to say is that your skin is the first interface. You experience your surrounding through your skin, isn't it? Okay. So when you touch your mobile phone, when you touch your iPad, when you touch your anything computer, so there's an interface in between. You cannot enter into the system. But now the technologies are evolving. You use VR, somewhere your senses are getting stimulated. You go, even if like you go and watch films, you watch them on IMAX or maybe in a 4DX theater. Still, I mean, you are detached. You are an external observer. But slowly and steadily, people who are gamer here, how many of you play games? If you like to play games, anybody here? If you are a gamer, or so you will feel that games are more immersive. And immersive in the sense that the technology of gaming is evolving far rapidly than, say, any other technology. So gamers are not only engrossed and immersed in the system, they're immersed in the sense that they actually become the character that they are playing. So you must have heard the terms called haptic feedbacks and all. If you carry iPhones, you see that even the new trailer of this F1 movie of Brad Pitt, which is coming, it has been released in giving the haptic feedback. Now, what is that haptic feedback? That you can actually feel what is happening in the film. So this distance is, is getting reduced. So there will be a time, and it isn't far. Okay, it isn't far. It's just on the brink. What maybe Kurzweil or Bostrom they call about singularity. In terms of artificial intelligence, this thing also comes in terms of how humans are going to be merged with technology. So once you are part of that technology, so you will be in the system and outside the system. Gamers are outside the system, but they're also inside the system. So they can have the objective experience and also the subjective experience, what the particular character, what the particular avatar is feeling inside the system. You can objectively verify it from outside, but you, as a part of it, I mean, you are just dissected. Okay. So you don't need to get confused, like what all this is about. It's about like Peter Wiebel is basically predicting a future where technology would be so advanced that we'll be inside the system and we'll be outside the system, and interface won't be any hindrance. Okay. There's a film called Congress, if you can watch it. It's by Robin Wright. It beautifully tells you, it narrates a story of what Peter Wiebel is talking about. So, few questions for you. Would you say that the evolution of technology is likely to fracture our sense of reality? One thing. And another one is, will we become incapable of distinguishing real from the fake in future? Now this particular one, the other VR picture, which is of Apple Vision, this particular advertisement, if you have seen, this shot makes me sad. And it makes me sad for the reason that instead of experiencing what is actually happening with him, there, the father, who can experience what is happening with him, with the memories that he can make with his child, he's just capturing. That's what we do. Suzanne Sontag, she talks about photography, how like people as tourists, they go around and they just don't wish to experience things around themselves. Instead, they wish to click pictures. Okay. It's a much more evolved kind of imagery here, that instead of like being with the family, being with the child, the person is thinking that maybe what if like after 5 years I decide that I need to experience that. You are actually experiencing that. So what do you think? Any comments on these two questions? You can treat these two questions as one. Any comments?
Okay, for the second question, where will we be able to distinguish real from the fake future? it's already started. Like the whole cake, is it cake or not? Like with how everything is so realistic, you cannot distinguish between anything right now. There we have digital AI, we have AI fakes, we have morphing. So it's very hard to distinguish of what is real, what is not, unless you can actually touch it or you can feel something about it. And whereas to say about the evolution of technology, I would say that our sense of reality is already so bad. I think evolution of technology is just worsening it at this point.
Nice comments. I mean, I do. Yes, sir wishes to say something. I mean, good observations. I believe that yes. I mean, if you read Shakespeare, Shakespeare's sense of reality is already so fractured. It was 400 years back, and now it's getting worse. Yes, sir.
Yeah, very insightful talk. Just in continuation of the observation made by the participant, uh, I, I gather that what she is saying is that technological advancement has reached such a speed that we are not, probably we would not be able to make pace with that, and so that will affect our sense of perception. Uh, I will refer to one small piece of article appeared in today's newspaper. The use of chat GPT. This is something that is happening quite at greater scale at academia among students and others. So there is a study that has come up on the effect of using chat GPT for our daily use, and the research shows that it has a negative impact on our ability to reason. So it has dumbed down. So I don't know whether it is connected or whether that can be extended to this, that more technology, is it probably going to affect our ability to reason, ability to perceive negatively? I don't know, but maybe there could be that effect on our ability. So on the other hand, we would be more and more dependent on machine, and we will lose our own then agency in that process. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with what sir is saying here. Like I see, like in my personal experience, I see this in the classroom where students, they come with their assignments done by ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, although it's getting better, but it also produces false citations. So students come with that and they present it. Now the problem here is, okay, for now we can tell it that it is a fake citation, but coming down, like say my, like tomorrow's talk of mine, it will deal some of these issues there. But like again, I mean, say down the line, like in 5 years, where we made ourselves familiar with that fakeness that ChatGPT has created, and we start believing ChatGPT as a gospel of truth, what will happen then? So, I mean, the chances are that we will start living the lie. The lie will become our reality. So somewhere it is like what sir has said, and what this girl, she made this observation that our sense of reality was already bad, and ChatGPT or any such kind of large language models which we are dealing with these days, or the image creation which is now happening with VO and all, I mean, it's going to be pretty bad. If, like, we are going to watch films where there aren't going to be actors, the real actors. This is actually going to happen soon. So, interesting times. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say something about the.
You have to, is mic, sound is, please.
So what I wanted to say was about the first question, about evolution of technology. Like, it was just a question before that, can AI be as humanistic? Like, can it have a humanistic intelligence as we humans have? And to explore more about that question, we have advanced that AI so much that even like character AIs, chat AIs, GPT, meta AIs, like most children nowadays are not even don't even know that they are not even talking to a real person. Like they still have that thing in their mind that we are talking to a real person. We are chatting and we are getting a reply. That means someone is typing on the other side of the screen, and we're just talking to a human being. Like they will know when they grow up that they were not talking to a human person, but right now it has hampered their thinking so much that they really believe that they are talking to a real person, which will be really harmful in future, because distinguishing a human's reply and the AI's reply will be really difficult. It is even very difficult right now with how humanistic the AI is now, how human the AI is now. So that's what I wanted to say.
Very true, and I believe that the problem isn't going to be with those children who are actually interacting with such like LLMs, AI. The problem is going to be with us who know that uh, this is not real, because for them that thing is real. As they grow, those things are, or the technology is also going to be much advanced. They will feel much far more friendlier than say with other humans, but for us, we are actually getting detached and distanced, so we don't know how to be like the new generation, and we cannot get into the past. So the problem lies in our generation. Okay, and it will run for say next 20, 30 more years, and who knows what the future holds. Okay, so coming to the last part, which is like from the future to the present, communicating ecological trauma. Uh, the exposure to new images of trauma on a daily basis is enough to induce a pre-memory or collective memory described as the mnemonic pre-mediation, which is rooted in the anxieties about the future. Now what happens, like you watch news, and it's such a common thing now. Like we laugh now, like when pain becomes too much, like it, you cannot even define it. You know, the pain becomes the cure. So we have been complaining about what kind of news are we watching these days and so on and so forth. But now we can only laugh. You know, we see, visceral images, images of devastation and all that. Recently I saw like a reporter was chasing of some woman who was basically, sort of getting away from the scene of devastation, and the reporter was chasing the lady that, okay, and it was from some place else, but he was chasing and asking, and the reporter was Indian. Okay, so he was chasing, what do you want to say? So people are actually getting numbed because they are seeing those things all the time, either through cinema, like you remember Avengers Endgame, the opening shot is much like what happened just a year later during the COVID time. So the opening shot shows that the nature is healing itself. People are gloomy, they are devastated, they are in trauma, but nature is healing itself. So when COVID happened, the same kind of imagery we saw. If you remember, during the first wave, people started watching from Delhi. They were looking towards Himalaya. They were seeing the hills. They could actually see it. The birds came back, So it was a beautiful time, but it was also a sad time. So we, the life now feels like a film because we have already seen so much happening in the form of imagery that maybe nothing surprises us. Even if, like, say, tomorrow alien come, like they invade Earth, we would say that, okay, we were actually waiting for you. Where were you? We have seen so many things happening on film. So Carolyn Hickman, she says, like she's one of the leading trauma theorists. She says people also talk about feeling depression, despair, frustration, anger, blame, and horror at the injustice of environmental destruction, guilt and shame, helplessness and powerlessness. Understanding in the face of such powerful and conflicting feelings, defenses can be easily triggered, leading people to then feel numb or dissociate. Moments of denial, disavowal, and disbelief can occur and then reoccur. So with younger generation, again, this problem happens a lot where when they see things happening around them and they cannot do anything about it, there are two options. Either you become numb, about everything, or you just get yourself filled with shame and guilt, and that you cannot do anything, you cannot perform the duties that you need to do for yourself, for your family, to safeguard your society, to your tribe, to your people. You cannot just do that. So another quick question, and this one is again for your assignment also for tomorrow. We'll do at the end part. Maybe if you wish to write something today, you can do that. You can bring this assignment tomorrow. Do large brands or corporations take advantage of our eco-anxiety or concern to benefit the environment? Fine. You can click a picture. This is for the assignment part. Can we move then? Done? Okay. So the film looks at the visceral image of a future, as Mark Bold puts it in the book, The Anthropocene Unconscious, of envisioning a world haunted not just by the dead, but the specter of death. The people are not dying. You're just anticipating that one day they'll be dead. Something like this will happen. The tragedy will befall. So you are already seeing as people as walking dead, as zombies. So Kathy Caruth describes trauma as overwhelming experience of a sudden or catastrophic events in which the response to the event occurs in the often delayed and uncontrolled repetitive occurrence of hallucinations and other intrusive phenomena, something which is very much related to all of Nolan's films. Something has happened with, say, Dom Cobb in Inception, and he keeps on repeating the same thing again and again through dreams. Maybe he can correct it. Something happened with Leonard Shelby in Memento, and he keeps on repeating the same thing again and again to find the answer, to find the killer of the supposed wife. Okay. Even in Tenet also, the protagonist dies at the very beginning. Maybe, who knows, he's in the hospital, he has not recuperated, he's still injured, and he's imagining all those things happening in the film. You never get the complete answer. And the audience is actually witnessing the trauma of something that has happened in the film. Maybe it is the trauma of Christopher Nolan. So Kathy Caruth again says, the sense that the survivor doesn't simply bring back a mastered knowledge of death, because death is the ultimate answer. But the person has not mastered that knowledge. So to master that knowledge, the person goes back again and again to that event as to get the complete answer. The confrontation itself might have that anticipatory quality of not being fully assimilated or known, but projected into a future. So what happens? There comes a deference. There comes, like, everything gets postponed. You don't have the knowledge, complete knowledge now, but maybe sometime in the future you will have. So you keep on repeating the same thing again and again, as in like habit formation, until you get the correct answer. Either you die or you get the exact answer that you wish to have. Maybe in life, maybe living. So in a book called, not in a book, in an article called Imagine Trauma, written by Ruth Lees, she says trauma is understood as an experience that immerses the victim in the scene so profoundly that it precludes the kind of specular distance necessary for cognitive knowledge of what has happened. The mimetic theory explains the tendency of traumatized people to compulsively repeat their violent experiences in nightmares or by repetitive forms of acting out, by comparing the traumatic repetition to hypnotic imitation. Now this particular scene, this happens 2 times in the film. So in the first time, like both these, like the protagonist and the other person who is in the mask, they are the same people, they are same person. So once something has happened with the protagonist, later on when it happens, he understands, he knows how things happen. So somewhere he wishes to control, he wants to control the action of the other himself, but he cannot. He goes on repeating, he knows, he has mastered the knowledge of what actually happened before. But even if he wishes to, or he wants to, or he asserts himself to try to change what actually happened in the past, he cannot. He finds himself incapable. Why so? You never know. Maybe it's the plot of predestination. Maybe things, as in the film, the Neil says, Robert Pattinson's characters say, that what has happened has happened. If something has happened, you cannot change it. All you can do is, even if like you have mastered the knowledge of the plot, like if you know the plot, you have read a novel, you cannot do anything about the plot. You have read Shakespeare multiple times, so you cannot bring back Hamlet alive in the end. You cannot do that. You can write another fiction. You can write a fan fiction. But that thing, you can create a multiverse. You can create a nod. But that thing there is done. It is done and dusted. You can play Hamlet in very different form, in different shade, but the destiny is set. Okay. Get the picture? Okay. So, Thomas Nail, he's like one of the most renowned scholars of our times. Like he's like the emerging philosopher. He says life is one of the most efficient maximizers of entropy on Earth, and humans have increased their entropic impact by further burning fossil fuel or producing nitrogen fertilizers, removing forests, and increasing net carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. Portions of the planet are literally moving more quickly and more unevenly around axes of gender, race, and class. So things that are happening in terms of environment, they're also affecting people, much like what Amy explained in the previous lecture, that it's not just about environment. It's not just about cutting the forest or doing something, or if some devastation is hitting on you, like Katrina happened, and so people are being said that okay, you go and live in the ground, it's going to be a very vibrating experience for you. No, people get affected by it. So even if like something is happening, you are putting something in the environment, it is coming back to you. And in our times, like the progress was already happening, like the earth was moving with its space. This term, like Gaia, you must be familiar with the term Gaia. This, like, people were discussing about the murdering mother in the previous lecture. So this image of Gaia, which we talk about now as a nurturing mother, in Greek literature, Gaia has been represented as something very bloody, something that wants blood. Bruno Latour has talked about it. So we dissociated ourselves in the modern times. We took that image away and we presented Gaia as something very nurturing. But Gaia is not. Everything out there. Thomas Hardy, if you read Thomas Hardy is like, he sees nature, fully bloodied, full of tooth and claws, coming after you. So nature is not forgiving. Nature is out there to have you. But things were happening steadily, slowly. Nature was evolving itself. Humans were evolving with nature. But now, as we have started to manipulate, doing some kind of engineering with the environment, everything has accelerated. That's what Thomas Nail is talking about. That we have disturbed the environment so much that it has started to disturb us back in so many different forms, and forms of gender, race, and class. So with this, I would like to conclude that you watch this film. This film basically talks about that what's happened has happened. So the thing that you can do is to act now, rather than waiting for tomorrow or for somebody else to make things correct for you. We need to act now. Geoengineering is not going to provide any solution. You need to make better choices for yourself. With this, I would like to end my lecture today. Any questions, any doubts? Or maybe we can do it during the tutorials tomorrow. Fine.